guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks so much for tuning in. Today's video is going to be all about my favorite and least favorite products from Colourpop and everything in between. It's actually a follow-up to a video I posted a couple weeks back at this point where I did a full face first impressions wear test using a ton of products that I ordered from the brand. But it took me a while for this follow-up because I totally forgot powder, bronzer, and foundation in that video. So had to order that, give it some more time to test, and throughout that whole process, I have since formed what I think are more informed opinions about the rest of the products as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. Why don't we start at the bottom with the not so favorites and then work our way up to the products that I think should be your first to try if you are totally new to the brand or you're just looking to add some new products to your Colourpop collection. Okay, so the not so favorites or fails. The first of which are the Jelly Much eyeshadows. I have a dedicated review to these where I try them on, swatch them all, mix them all together. It was kind of a fun video and I really like the results of it, but for the fact that even though these are absolutely gorgeous shadows, they made my eyes itch, and so for that alone, I'm not going to be wearing these again just because I can't really stand to have them on for as long as I personally would like to wear my makeup throughout the day. So gorgeous, pigmented, but a fail for me just because they itch. The next up is one I should have seen coming. It's the foundation. When I said I'd forgotten it in that initial full face video, a lot of you guys said don't bother. It's been getting awful reviews in general. You had tried it yourself, hadn't liked it, but curiosity got the best of me and I had to give it a try, only to find, much like what a lot of you guys said, it just didn't sit well on my skin. I have combination skin for reference, so I tend to have dry patches around the perimeter of my face and oilier skin down in my T-zone, and I experienced breakup in my chin area and dryness around the perimeter, and no combination or amount of priming and setting spray and setting powder, any of that kind of stuff could remedy that, or altering my base, because what I have found is that sometimes like my SPF or my skincare regimen will affect foundation. Obviously that's totally a possibility too, but no matter how I changed any of those other surrounding factors, this foundation just didn't quite do it for me. And those are really the two major fails for me. As we get into these next few products, it's really less that they were just absolute fails for me and more so just that they're not the qualities of these products are just not what I look for in products within a specific category, if that makes sense. Here's an example. Let's just go ahead and get into the first product. It's the Brow Boss Gel. This was kind of a puzzling product to me because it has this white cast. I wouldn't call it a gel. It's not clear. It's almost more of an opaque, milky white consistency. You put it on your lashes, it's relatively thick, and I find that if you don't wait for it to dry and you touch your brows or manipulate your brows while it's still tacky, it can almost flatten them and your brows just feel super heavy with it on. That might be okay if throughout the day it was like super glue, held my brows in place, but it didn't. I found that I do tend to have like longer brow hairs, and so what I look for in a gel is for it to literally hold my brows exactly as they are. Otherwise, I get like kind of stray, I don't know why I'm doing this and messing up my brows when I really can't, like that. I can kind of see in the viewfinder that the brow gets askew and it's not a clean arch, and so I look for my brow gel to prevent that, and this just did not do that for me. I still found my brow hairs were a little unruly with it, so it just didn't work out for me. But if you're looking for something that might add a little bit of volume, this is on the thicker side. So what you might not get in terms of adding bulk, if that makes sense, to your brow hair, this might provide because it is just a little bit thicker. Same kind of deal for the concealer. It wasn't bad. It stayed in place on me all day. It didn't crease or flake or fade or anything like that. It just wasn't quite as full coverage as I would have liked. It was surprisingly thin, so if you're looking for a very natural feeling thin concealer that still provides a good amount of coverage, I'm not saying it's light coverage at all, it just isn't as full coverage as, for reference, my current go-to and long-time go-to, the Tarte Shape Tape. It's just not quite as full coverage as that, and so it just, you know, in comparison, I'm still gonna go with my Shape Tape, and the Colourpop just couldn't beat it out. So I guess I could just say in general, the skin products did not work out for me so much because the Colourpop No Filter Sheer Press Powder is also not among my favorites. I, for reference, got the shade Light, and while it's not bad by any means, I just didn't notice it making a whole lot of difference in my face routine. I also tried this powder with other foundations, and it was just okay. It gives a beautiful light, nice coverage, but it is a matte powder, and I tend to look for more illuminating or glowy sorts of setting powder just because that's the finish that I prefer on my skin. Not that this is bad. I didn't notice it making my makeup look cakey or heavy looking, and it really kind of looked like it blurred out any sort of texture or fine line specifically in my under area, but in terms of a matte finish powder, it's just overall not a genre of powders I'm typically interested in. Okay, now getting more into the products that I would recommend and I really liked from Colourpop. First, starting with the bronzer, I got the pressed powder face highlighter, which is kind of confusing, but I guess the shade is bronzer. It is a cooler toned bronzer, especially relative to my skin tone, and it does have a hint of satiny shimmer to it. Like, I would say it's a step above satin, but not all the way shimmer. And what I find that does, or when any bronzer kind of has that quality, is it does a really good job at not only bronzing and deepening the skin tone, but it also just leaves your skin with this really beautiful, healthy glow to it. Not shine. It's not like emphasizing your skin texture or anything. It just almost smooths out the skin texture. At least that's what I find with the texture that this has anyway. I wonder if you can even see in the view. It kind of looks like you can here. It just has a super subtle shine. It's really gorgeous. I find that this shade for my skin tone acts as a really nice all over bronzer. So I'll take a fluffy brush like this one, for instance. This is an IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe Wand Ball Powder Brush. Just use it like wherever I would use bronzer, and I just love the effect it gives, especially for the price. Next up is a Supernova shadow, and the shade that I have is Over Again. Couldn't resist getting this because it's like a duo slash trichrome. I'm a sucker for anything that has like more than 2 color representations in it. But I was a little worried because when I did my full face wear test, I did experience some crumbling with this. And it's not unheard of for me anyway to have that happen with something that a glitter or a shimmer that starts out as a liquid, and then as you kind of move your eye throughout the day, just that mobility causes something that's dried down to a powder, especially a thicker consistency powder, to fall out or crumble on your under eye area. I did experience a little bit of that with this. I found a primer helped. It didn't totally make it crumble or fade free, but it helped quite a bit. And honestly, because of the cool nature of this color, that's why it wins for me. You just have to acknowledge that you might have some of those side effects, but for me, the way this looks on the eyes is worth it. And so just like everything in this, how it might be a fail for me and not for you, this I really like, and the positives far outweigh the potential negative of the fallout. So for what it's worth, I like it. Okay, next up is the traditional Super Shock shadow formula. These I fell in love with when I tried them when they very first came out. Nothing has changed. I just tried 3 different shades from this collection. We have Monkey Business, which is this insanely gorgeous and pigmented like neon coral. And then there is I Like You, which is a really interesting kind of a mustard yellow, but with this cool purple glitter iridescence to it. Very interesting shade. And then I also got what is maybe more boring standing next to these two, but still a really essential color, I think, for your collection, and one that still performed really well. And that is Kennedy. It's like a satin, soft, peachy shade. All 3 consistent with the Super Shock formula I know and love, and would totally recommend if you're looking for some new shades, considering these. Alrighty, nearing the end here, guys. Here I have a loose highlight powder. This, I still get confused by this. I made the same mistake in that first video. It's either called a luster dust and the shade is Strobe Globe, or reverse that. I can never remember which. The names are kind of confusing on here. Either way, it is a very beautiful and buildable loose highlighter. When I first tried this out, I wasn't sure if it would just come off as immediately blinding, and if not, you would be able to kind of tell that there were individual shimmers in here because it is very high shine when you look at it in the packaging. But what I found is that even if you put a light layer on your skin, it gives you that wet makeup look. Like, it doesn't look like you have a sprinkling of sparkle or glitter on your skin. It still looks very natural and almost dewy or wet-like. And then if you build it up, it gets to that, you know, more expected blinding highlight. But there's just an element of versatility in there that I didn't expect from a loose highlighter like this. And not only is it great as a highlighter, but as like a wash of color across the lids, as a full-on body highlight. You get so much product in here that you could take a big old kabuki brush or something and put it on your, in like Rihanna style, on your shoulders and your clavicle, things like that. I just think this has so much versatility in anyone's makeup routine, whether it's for special occasions or daily. And last up is the lipstick. Oh my god, no it's not. I totally forgot to mention the eyeshadows, and there's actually a fail in here for me. Okay, so I have talked about this before on the channel. I think in my recent favorites video, I talked about the I Think I Love You palette from Colourpop. And I'm wearing it on my eyes today. It is this gorgeous collection of neutral, bronzy, golden tones, like very classic, very comfort zone for me. And I was really impressed with the shadow qualities. It was the first time I'd ever tried a pressed Colourpop shadow formula. Love them. Have nothing bad to say about shimmers. There's some mattes in here. All of them performed so beautifully, and so really like this palette. At the same time that I placed the order for the foundation and I believe the pressed powder, I also got another shadow palette just because I wanted to kind of check the consistency across the formulas. And so the one that I picked up was the Vacation Mode palette, and this is a quad with actually, I should compare the two. The shadow pans look bigger. I'm not sure if you actually get more formula per shadow, but either way, I was interested to try different shadow combinations to see if they varied across the board or if they were just consistently good from Colourpop. Not that I can even know just from sampling these two, but it gives me more data points to talk from. Anywho, I picked this up and I'm glad I did because I did not find the same consistency in here. In fact, the shade, I think this is how they're labeled, Shotgun over here. It's this really beautiful, deep, gragey eggplant shade. It was patchy. It was patchy without a primer. It was patchy with a primer. Took a lot of working with and layering to get a really even and super pigmented application. And then even with these shimmer shades, I believe we have Teeny Bikini and Round Trip, these were not as pigmented, I didn't think, as the shimmer shades in the I Think I Love You palette. One of these shades in this palette I wore as a highlight, and it was like, I had to tone it down. It was so, it was the shade Rowdy here. Gorgeous face highlight, but use light hand because I actually, for the first time in a very long time, actually had to tone down my highlight when I wore it. And I feel like I'm not getting the same pigmentation from these either. So I don't know why. Let me know if it's you. The quads in general, they have a different formula, or if you just had this experience personally, but it didn't experience the same smoothness and ease with these shadows as I did with those in the I Think I Love You palette. Okay, now for real, last up, let's talk about the lipstick. This is actually something I kind of flip-flopped on. I was pretty middle of the road with it when I did my full face wear test video. The shade, for the reference, and it's what I'm wearing here today, is Third Eye. It's a really beautiful, lightish nude shade, and at first when I wore it, it felt a little bit drying, wasn't as moisturizing, my lips didn't feel as comfortable when wearing it, and the shade for me was like, just so-so. But as I've been incorporating it into my daily makeup routine, and with more different eye makeup or shade combinations that I've been trying, this has been a really good go-to in terms of how it pairs in terms of color with the stuff that I have on my eyes. It's just like a really nice neutral lip base for the days that I want to kind of play at my eyes a little bit more. And also the formula. While I initially focused on what I thought was like a drying component to the formula, now whenever I think about it, it's like it's the lightweight component of it, if that makes sense. I don't know. I haven't experienced any dryness with this, even though my gut reaction was that I didn't get any moisture from it. When you consider that it is like a demi-matte finish, it's not drying in the least, and it's super lightweight. So yeah, while it wasn't a product I was initially crazy about at first try, given, you know, weeks to work with it and incorporate it into my daily makeup routine, it turns out I reached for it a lot more than I thought I would, which is why I love doing this, kind of the first impression and then the follow-up, because time is everything, and sometimes my gut reaction is right and the thing that failed for me once continued to fail for me later, but sometimes there are just those products that turn on you and they don't work for you in the long term like you thought you would when you first tried them. So that is it for me. Finally, long video, but thank you for sticking with me. If you did make it all the way to the end, let me know what your favorites and maybe not so favorites are from the brand Colourpop in the comments below. Besides that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.